I'm Dan Guerrero, a proud member of the Vincent Price Art Museum Foundation Board. And I'm glad you could join me today as I have a very informal talk with one of the artists that has donated work to our big fundraiser, Art a la Carte. It's a virtual art auction, November 22nd through December 11th. And if you're smart, you will go on and check this amazing gallery of work that our artists have donated. And you go to vpam.org, VPAM.org. You'll be glad you did. We thank all of our participating artists for sure. But today we're going to have a little chat with an LA-based artist and educator. In fact, she taught at ELAC a while back, but she'll tell us about that and lots of things. So please zoom in, Phung Huynh. There you are.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for squeezing us in. I know you've been on mommy duty today, huh?
It's my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. We could talk for a very long time. I'm quite sure you have a fascinating background, both your personal story and, of course, your work, public work, drawings, paintings. But I do want to concentrate today on your recent work that includes drawings, graphite drawings on pink donut boxes. Now, that's not a phrase you don't hear often. I know that the story you're telling in these drawings is very personal for you.
Yes. So I'm a Vietnamese refugee of Chinese and Cambodian descent. My father survived the genocide in Cambodia and biked his way to Vietnam, where he sought asylum. And that's where he met my mom, who's the child of Chinese refugees from China, from southern China, who came to Vietnam during World War II, during Japanese imperialism. So my mom and I were both born in Vietnam. We emigrated and resettled to the United States in 1978, at first in Michigan. And then my father thought, no, we need to go somewhere where there's more people like us. And so I grew up in Los Angeles, primarily in Chinatown and Echo Park, Northeast LA. So that's my refugee story, which inspired the donut box drawings that you're talking about. And I made those drawings because, number one of my colleagues gave me an LA Times article about why these donut boxes were pink. And I always knew why they were pink. They had to do with the influx of Cambodian refugees and how close to 90% of donut shops in California are owned by mom and pop businesses, by these Cambodian immigrants and refugees. And I thought, why is it that 30, 40 years later that this story is published in LA Times, that it's getting this attention, when this is something that in my community, we've known this whole time. And so like you've mentioned before, I've said, we need to tell our own stories before they're told for us. It needs to be heard from that autobiographical, personal experience and not appropriated. And so that's why I wanted to make this series.
And they're absolutely beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. I never knew about the pink boxes. I just took it for granted. Donut boxes are pink. I have no idea. But why did they choose pink in the beginning? Is it that color means something in particular?
So Ted Ngoy, who was a Cambodian refugee of Chinese descent, emigrated here to Southern California in 1975. And he worked in a church and he worked at a gas station. And during his break on his night shift at the gas station, his coworker brought him some donuts. And he never had donuts. And he thought, oh my gosh, this is delicious. And took it back to his family. And he said, why don't we own a donut shop? And he literally walked to a local donut shop called Christie's and said, I want to buy your shop. And they kind of laughed at him, And he said, I'm going to buy this shop. They're like, well, why don't you apply to this job at Winchell's? They were training and hiring donut managers. So he learned the donut trade by being a manager at Winchell's through the special program, and eventually went back to this donut shop called Christie's and bought it. And his wife changed her name to Christie's. And they saved money and bought another one. And basically, as Cambodians were immigrating to Southern California, he would lease these donut shops to them and train them for jobs. And that's the beginning of that story, right? And it's legend that one of his workers called the donut box distributor. At this time, all the boxes were white. And white for most, Asian cultures represent death, right? And red and pink, purple are more festive and lucky colors. And so this worker called the donut box distributor and said, we're trying to save money here. So, what do you got? And they said, well, we have all this pink cardboard because red ink accidentally fell in, right? And made all these cardboard pink. If you want it, you can have it for cheaper. So that's the legendary story about how these boxes became pink. And it coincided with the refugee and immigrant story of Cambodians coming to Southern California in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And Dan, for you growing up in LA all your life, I'm pretty sure you encountered that moment where like all of a sudden we have Vietnamese and Cambodians coming to Southern California.
Yes, my mom lived in Monterey Park. And all of a sudden, very quickly, it seemed, where did the Mexican restaurants go? Everything changed, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. But that's what makes the whole that area where VPAM sits on the ELAC campus between these two communities, in particular the Asian American, Asian Pacific, and Latino. It's very rich, very diverse, and of course that's one of the reasons that VPAM is so committed to diversity. I don't know. I love that story because I didn't know about the pink boxes. I don't know if it has anything to do with your actual art, but it's a good story. I liked it. You actually, I want to quote you if I may. I try to uncover the complex layers of cultural assimilation and forging new identities. It is more than just donuts and pink boxes. And indeed it is. And you do that in all your work, your public works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that becoming American is a very complicated issue. And I love how you mentioned how East LA is this beautiful amalgam of different cultures, but particularly that love between Asian and Latinx is very unique, because when my family first came to the United States, actually to LA, my mom and dad worked in the garment industry. And we met my abuelita who grew up in East LA, and she became sort of the mother to my mom and my abuelita and helped us assimilate. So our assimilation story is very connected to East LA, Northeast LA, being very close to the southern border. Mexican culture played a lot into us becoming American, right? And so I feel that that's very important to talk about in the work. And that's why VPAM has such a close and very central place in my heart, because it reminds me of me and my family's experience in becoming American, and that becoming American doesn't have to be an Anglo-American or white American experience. And so I feel like the pink donut box kind of honors that.
It does honor it and ties it all together. And you're right, there's a very strong link between the Asian American, Latin American, Latinos. My dad was born and raised in Tucson, and he was born in 1916. And the grocer in the little all Latino neighborhood there was a Chinese gentleman who spoke perfect Spanish, because of course, when they were building the railroads, they brought a lot of Chinese and Mexican laborers. So we have a strong tie, which also means, that's why I love donuts so much. So that's why I wanted to hear the story of the pink donut box. I appreciate your time today. I wish we could talk more, but maybe we'll have a longer conversation at one point, because we appreciate your support of VPAM and you're donating your beautiful work. So please check out vpam.org, Art a la carte, and the wonderful work of Phung and so many artists. So thank you, my friend. Now go back to being mommy.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
So much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.